Okay, so hi, welcome back to episode 3 of Talk with the Interns. Last episode we talked about what it's like inside US classrooms, so the professors, the discussion, and what participation looks like inside classrooms. Today we're going to be talking about navigating internships, so the internship, how to get an internship, how to get maybe a job for the future, as well as just career navigating in general.
Yeah, we also want to do our little reminder about the Q&A section that we do at the end of every episode, and those are questions that are sent into the Education USA Chile Instagram page. All right, so we're gonna get into finding internships at US universities. So I know this was definitely like something that sort of stressed me out a little bit, especially definitely. Like as you get into like your third and fourth years of university, it becomes like a little bit more important to start looking for internships. I know like in Chilean universities, internships are required, but that's not like a thing in the US. So it's more so that they're just like highly encouraged. They look really good on resumes, and like there's something that employers look for in the future. So we definitely like,
I would say like most people definitely like have an internship for the most part, because having an internship shows that like you are capable of having a job and being an employee. So yeah, I would say definitely like, even though it's not required, basically everyone does it. Yeah. There are so many ways to also like look for internships through online platforms. I think you mentioned earlier maybe Handshake and LinkedIn, which are online platforms that employers post jobs, as well as they can look at who you are, kind of the experience you've had. Do you have like a LinkedIn profile or?
Yeah, so I would say LinkedIn, especially as like maybe communications majors, is like a little bit more important, just because like so much of finding a job is like a communications major is like networking. So it comes a lot with just like making sure that your profile is up to date, so that you have like your resume linked on there, you have like a few maybe like job or work experiences that you have linked on there. As well as just like, a little blurb about yourself. And then, in terms of looking for internships, like as you mentioned, I really just like do it often and like look through it a lot.
There's definitely like a really big importance with like applying early and like also like applying broadly. So as you guys know, like I'm a finance and Arabic major, and I'm here basically on a communications with a communications internship. So yes, that is like a little bit off of what I'm studying, and not exactly a finance internship or really like a business internship in general. But I think it also shows employers that I'm capable of multiple things and I can communicate well, and I think that's a really important aspect in the career field as well.
Absolutely. There's also like quite a few different types of internships that I think like are important to explain. So there's paid internships, which I would say are like a little bit less common as a college student to like find.
Maybe like in your higher years.
Yeah, exactly. But they definitely come with like a lot like a heavier workload than maybe an unpaid internship would come with. So then going to unpaid internships, you're not getting paid, you're not getting compensated for the work that you do. It's more so just like to get an experience like working at the company. There's also summer internships, which I would say are probably the most common, just because students like aren't enrolled in classes and they have a lot more time on their hands. Those obviously can be paid or unpaid. And then there's also part-time internships. So those are the ones that would take place like during the academic year, and you'd kind of do them like alongside of your studying.
I would say how I got this internship was, we have something called like the Notre Dame job board, where they post like part-time, full-time, on-campus, off-campus jobs, but also we have like study abroad application, and that's kind of what I applied through, and I was able to like find an internship while I was abroad. How did you get this internship?
Yeah, it was the same thing. We also have like that job forum through UW-Madison that also does like internships and jobs. So I also knew that I wanted to do like an abroad working experience, so I did like an internship that was listed under that job website. But those are super helpful because they have like a lot of different opportunities across like a lot of different areas of study, I would say.
Yeah, and then study abroad is also kind of like becoming a bigger thing in the US. Maybe not as much for international students, but obviously we're here studying abroad and interning, so I would say it's definitely like a pretty awesome experience as well.
All right, next we're gonna be talking about resumes, so sort of just like what you should put on them, how they look, maybe comparisons between like US resumes and other resumes. So I know at least like here in my experience in Chile, we've talked a little bit about how Chilean resumes include things like their root, like their identification number, things like their marital status, maybe like a photo even. I would say in general, US resumes are just like a lot less personal. So I would say the most personal they get is like a phone number or an email, maybe like a city in which you're located. But yeah, they're very like achievement focused. So I would say everything that you have on your resume is like the education that you have or the education that you're currently pursuing, as well as like work experience, volunteer experience, any like leadership experience.
Yeah. Honestly, anything that shows like an employer like, hey, these are like the traits that I have and the attributes that could help me apply for this job.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so we also have a bunch of resources on campus that help us with our resumes. So I know at least at Notre Dame, we have the Career Center. So that they help us anything from building our resume from scratch up into searching for an internship, searching for a job post-grad school. So there also are a bunch of like online platforms. I know you could even go to like Word or Google Docs, look up a resume template. You can also just simply look up like a resume example that could help you easily create your own resume.
Yeah, absolutely. And then in terms of like, if you submit your resume to like an internship or to a job even, and you get to the interview stage, I feel like we have a few interview tips to give. So there are like, I would say, questions that are more commonly asked in an interview. So it'd be things like, maybe like, what are your greatest strengths? What are your greatest weaknesses? Like, what's a time that you failed? What would you bring to the company? You can also like look up questions online, and there's gonna be
definitely like sample interviews and stuff like that.
Things that you can use to prepare. So I always try and like prepare at least like a few days in advance with like a lot of different questions that I think the company might ask me about.
Yeah. And then another like really big thing is to always come with a question or two. So at the end of each interview, they'll typically ask you, do you have any questions for us? And I think it's really important to at least ask one question. I think it shows that you came prepared and that you are expecting to be asked this question. So it could be something like, oh, what are the next steps after this interview? Or what does the work life look like here? And simple things like that. But just becoming prepared is really, really key.
Yeah. I would say also, just as like a piece of advice, if it is something that you're like very worried about, like getting an internship or like some sort of like work experience, like working in a lab that you need to apply for, I would say that rejection is like something that you just have to get used to.
It's common.
Yeah, like, I would say I probably got rejected from like 20 internships in the past semester. So it's very normal, it's very natural, and you just need to like know that it's normal and just keep applying.
Yeah, like you just have to apply to as many internships as you can. And like I was talking about earlier, like I applied to this communications internship. So even though it's not exactly like in my realm of study, like it still can provide me with like those internship techniques that you need. So
yeah, definitely.
Okay, so now we're going to be discussing what job fairs look like, as well as kind of touching on a little bit of networking. I know we kind of talked about like that a little bit in the previous episodes, but just kind of emphasizing how important building a network in college is. So I think there are a lot of different job opportunities / job fairs / ways you can find a job like overall at university, but one of the biggest ones would definitely be the job fair. I know at Notre Dame we have it probably about once a semester, actually on campus, where employers will come on campus and you can have like those one-on-one face-to-face conversations with the employer.
Yeah, we also have like internship fairs. Do you guys have those at all?
I don't know if we have that, but kind of like you would go to the job fair to maybe like get an internship.
Yeah. So it's very much like, I feel like most professors will like send out something saying that there's a job fair, an internship fair going on. And when that happens, I'll usually, if I want to go, there's usually like a list that comes out with like the different employees.
Like it's gonna be there.
Yeah, that will be there. And I sort of just like do a little bit of research for one, just to see if like I'm interested in any of the companies. And then to just like look into them individually and like think about a few points that I can like talk about.
Absolutely. What kind of questions you want to ask them?
Yeah, exactly. And then I would say in terms of things to bring, I usually bring like a resume and like
a notebook, take a couple of notes.
Yeah,
just simple things like that.
Yeah. In terms of networking, I would say this is like a good thing to talk about in relationship with the job fair, because it's something that is very relevant at a job or an internship fair. You want to do a lot of networking. That just basically looks like talking.
Yeah, building relationships, getting someone's email, getting someone's business card. I think we were talking about earlier as well, building those relationships with professors that can help you get jobs. That actually happened to me in one of my accounting classes. I had a really good relationship with my professor, and he set me up with, I hopefully want to do like intelligence at some point, so he set me up with an FBI agent, and we got to like go get lunch. So just simple things like I was just close enough with my professor and networked enough, and now I have like an FBI like mentor, so super cool.
I feel like it's also like a little tip I would give is to like follow up with people who you like do talk with at like these different
emails.
These little fairs. If you get somebody's contact info, like Riley said, like send them a little email that's like, oh, it was so nice to meet you. This was one thing that stood out from our conversation, and like thank you so much. I'd love to like stay in contact with you in the future.
Networking is just a really, really important part of college, and I think that it can open doors that you didn't expect. So
All right, next we're going to be talking about having a job while you're studying at an American university. So I would say the biggest like differences are like on-campus jobs versus off-campus jobs. So an on-campus job is basically like a job that's organized or like managed by the university itself. So those are different things like working at residence hall desks, which is something that I
work at like gyms.
That's
like basic, like I feel like most of them are like front desk, like, oh, you're greeting someone.
Yeah, or like the dining hall, I know is a really popular one too.
Or like even like food restaurants like on campus too.
And then your off-campus jobs are like anything that's not affiliated with the campus. I do want to make the note that like international students we know can only work 20 hours a week on their student visa, and then can only their freshman year have university jobs. So those are those on-campus.
Did you have like an on-campus or an off-campus job like during your time so far?
Yeah, so from my freshman year to like the very beginning of my junior year, I worked an on-campus job that was like at a residence hall desk, and I basically just like helped students that lived in the dorm with like any resources they needed, or like checking students in for random things. And then I also now currently at university work at a off-campus restaurant. So I do that as well, but those were part-time jobs.
There's also like opportunities to work on campus through like labs or research positions. I actually have a friend who has been working in the lab this whole past year as a sophomore. I'd say it's definitely not as common as a freshman, because you definitely need like that basic knowledge, because this is more for like a biology major, chemistry major, maybe more like STEM oriented, where you are having those labs and like research, you're doing that kind of research. So definitely like maybe not as a freshman, but being able to be an upperclassman and get those.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like in this whole conversation, like something that can be a little bit tricky to think about is like how you're going to manage working and also studying as a student if it's something that you choose to do. It can be like sort of a lot at times, especially if your like credit load for a certain semester is like really high. But I think like it's just important to think about when like your schedule and when you have time to study outside of like
I would say like time management is a really big thing. Okay, I know today I'm going to be working all day, so either the day before I need to get all my schoolwork done, and just being able to be like put things in your calendar and know when things are due. And I think that's just a general like college tip for the most part. I think I mentioned at Notre Dame we also have the Career Center, so lots of opportunities to get a job, like again, off campus, on campus, and then just like basic, like, oh, I want to work at this restaurant, so I'm gonna go apply like through the restaurant and stuff like that. I think that's like a basic.
I think career services is also super helpful, because like a a lot of the people who work there were also once students, so they have like a lot of recommendations for like what the best opportunities for you would be.
And then I think I also like mentioned this, but we have like the Notre Dame job board. So they post like, off-campus jobs, on-campus jobs, volunteering work, community service. And I think you mentioned they even like post like your own internships, which is awesome. So definitely like that's a really, really big way for us to get jobs as well.
I would say just like stay updated, know what you can and can't handle, and just like be conscious of how much you can like balance on your plate. Yeah. All right, now we're on to our last segment, which is the Q&A section. These questions were sent in to us via the Education USA Chile Instagram page. So our first question that we received says, how do I ask for a recommendation letter?
Yeah, so I think in my own experience, I've asked for a letter of recommendation from a professor that I knew really well. So I believe he taught my leadership class, which is like one of our like core requirements. I just had a really awesome relationship with him, and he knew me as a student, so he knew me like, he knew I had good grades and all of that. He also knew like what I was involved in like outside of the classroom, which I think is a really important thing for a recommendation letter, that they can speak to both how well you do in the classroom, but also who you are as a person.
Yeah, that's why I think it's like, as we've been mentioning this whole episode, like networking is so important, in establishing that relationship with professors will then like, get you a letter of recommendation. I know even for like a few scholarships that I just applied to this last semester, I like emailed one of my professors that I worked with that it was like sort of like related to what the scholarships were for. And I was like, I know you like know this sort of aspect of me, like, would you be willing to write a letter of recommendation? And they're always like very willing if you actually.
For sure. And like definitely like you can use different professors for different like letters of recommendation too. The next question we got was, what if I don't get any internships?
Yeah, so honestly, I feel like that's a fear that like a lot of students hold at university, and like it also is the case. Like it's very hard to get internships.
Yeah, like we were talking about earlier, like we applied to like 20 and got rejected, so it's definitely very normal.
So I would say, for one, just like don't get discouraged, like it will be okay.
Everyone gets rejected.
It's rejected, it's very normal. But I would say my advice would be to, if you don't have like an internship lined up for a summer or like a semester, try and find like volunteer opportunities that would sort of like reflect the same sort of work, because employers also like very much value like community involvement, and then like also the fact that like it aligns with what you want to do in the future is super helpful.
They're just looking for like the character traits within their workplace. So like, can you be a leader? Can you effectively handle difficult situations and stuff like that? And anything that shows that, I think, is almost as great as an internship.
Yeah, absolutely.
But that's it for today. So thank you for joining us. We hope that these tips helped you build or get an understanding of what internships and career building is like in the US.
Yeah, so just remember that obviously everything that we've talked about, like jobs, having internships, those are all learning experiences, as well as I just mentioned, like rejections. Learning from what you maybe like did wrong or from feedback is super important as well.
Absolutely. And make sure you're sending your questions through Instagram so we can tailor to your needs. The next episode that we host will be about the dorm life and housing on campus. So maybe like what it's like to live on campus, what it's like to live off campus, the dining halls, what it's like to share a space with a person you just met an hour ago, and stuff like that. So we look forward to seeing you soon. Bye.